What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Greeter coming back to you with a market update for the vintage Kenner items. We've got mint on cards we're going to cover today. Kind of a mishmash. It's kind of all over the place. A lot of Return of the Jedi card backs, some Power of the Force. And I wanted to go through some of the more choice bits that Jeff's Collectible Empire sold. As I talked about, I think in a What to Buy video, he had somebody walk into his bricks and mortar store with like 85 mint on cards. A lot of Return of the Jedi mint on cards that were single owners. He bought them direct from the store and stored them for 40 years. And then he sold them to Jeff, and Jeff put them on eBay. And, he started them at like, $10. So, pretty awesome that he did that. He could have tried to milk every dollar from people, but, some pretty interesting sales prices for a lot of those items. So you'll have to forgive my voice. I'm a little hoarse tonight. I've been screaming all day at the TV complaining about my Tennessee Titans. They're terrible. I just want to scream and choke them. That's what I want to do. So it's all over the place here with a lot of these, but I kind of grouped them by seller. So this is one I've been meaning to touch on. This one sold on November 18th. I thought this was a particularly good deal. This was a Palatoy Han Solo clear blister, which, most Palatoys do stay that way, but it was in really good shape overall. A little bit of wear here and there, but probably overall, I would think an 80. I just would be shocked if this one did not get an 80 grade, if somebody decided to grade it. But it was a really beautiful Palatoy Han Solo, and I thought it sold for a great deal, $380 US plus $22 shipping. This was in California. I mean, that's a good deal. I just feel like that one would kind of fell underneath the radar, as does happen from time to time. But beautiful example there that just kind of fell under the radar. I did have it on my watch list, but I'm not kind of buying right now. But I was thinking it would sell for $500 plus. So I was really surprised it came in that low. This seller had a number of Power of the Force, mostly Ewoks, but a couple of last 17 figures I wanted to show you. None of them were in perfect shape, so keep that in mind with these sales prices. But this Wicket was in pretty good shape. Lightly yellowed, and it had a couple of, creases here and there to it, some light edge wear to it. He was kind enough to zoom in on, some of the defects for the cards. But a pretty nice looking example, unpunched, and Wicket on the Power of the Force card does tend to command a premium. It's pretty expensive. It's not as expensive as like the Ewoks cartoon version, but this is definitely one that's pretty desirable. It sold for $316 on 21 bids. Here is a last 17 Warwick, unpunched, pretty good card back. I would say this is probably even in better condition than the Wicket was. It had one little crease there that you can see, but very minor. One little soft crease on the back as well. But in general, I would say this is probably about an 80 grade. That sold for $256. Again, I mean, that seems like a really good deal for a mint on card last 17 Warwick. That's a price I'd pay. Ramba, same thing, very similar condition. Light creases. A lot of these creases on the back of the card, they're probably from the stamping of the blister onto the card back. That tended to happen quite a bit for a number of these, and just kind of the process of stamping them onto the card, especially with that coin. There's a lot of stamp area. It's not just a small little blister. You got the whole stamp around the coin as well. So that tended to cause a little bit of creasing, very minor creasing on the backs of the cards for some of these Power of the Force figures. But light yellowing, unpunched, and Ramba looked pretty good. $160.50. Another good deal on that one, I thought. A really good deal. Here's the Imperial Dignitary. That sold for $203.50. So I think a lot of these just kind of fell underneath the radar as well. Again, the same soft crease, but it was unpunched, and the blister was in pretty good shape. Kind of heavy yellowing to the blister, admittedly, and it did have a little bit of frosting. It looks like on the head of that ugly purple dude. So those factors probably played a role as to why it sold so low. But given that a loose graded figure can go for 200 or 240 somewhere in there. $203.50 for a mint on card that you could just display in a sliding acrylic case. You don't have to grade these. These are just perfect display items. So $203.50 is a good deal, even despite the frosting. All right, let's dig into Jeff's Collectible Empire. He had a number of beautiful mint on cards. Now, some of them, the pops were cut out, and I did include a few of those here, but I tried to only include mainly the ones that did not have the proofs of purchase cut out. This one was the 65 back A debut card, I believe, for the Emperor's Royal Guard. Very light yellowing to the blister on that. Pretty amazing condition. That's a really nice shape for it. And admittedly, it was yellowed, so that kept the price down. The sales price was $258 on 13 bids. If that had been clear blister, I bet you could double or potentially 2.5 times that price at $500 to $600. But just light yellowing, and that's going to happen for these Return of the Jedi card backs. But beautiful 65A for the ERG. Here was Han Solo in his Hoth gear, clear blister, but unfortunately it did have a crease in the upper right-hand corner, so that held the price down a little bit. Unpunched, though, really nice, clean 77A. Probably overall, unfortunately, about a 75 at best. The blister is probably about an 80, figure 85, and the card, because of that pretty pronounced crease in the upper right-hand corner, would probably put you back at about a 75. But still, it's nice to see a pretty clean example. And again, this is another good example if you're into collecting clear blister Return of the Jedi card backs. Probably a good pickup at $224.50. That's a good buy right there. Next up was Chewbacca. It looks like it might have some very light yellowing. The proof of purchase was cut out on this one. I did include it because, it's the alternate image, the Rockstar Chewbacca. And it's hard to say if it looks like it is yellowed. Yeah, so in the lower right-hand corner, you can see the light yellowing to it. But with the proof of purchase cut out, again, it's the alternate image card back, a pretty cheap way to add one if you didn't want to pay the big boy prices. $239.50 on that one. Pretty good price. Here was a beauty. This was Darth Vader. It's a shame the pop was cut out on this one as well. It's a 65A Hong Kong, so this is not the Lily Letty, but crystal clear blister. But unfortunately, that pop being cut out really hurts the prices. Now, it might be useful to tell you, I've had people ask me, how much does the proof of purchase being cut out hurt the sales price for these mint on cards? In general, it's at least 50%, at least, if not more than that. And that's further proof here. I mean, this one, if the proof of purchase had not been cut out, this one I think would probably sell for $500 to $600 pretty easily, because it's clear blister, it's a 65 back A, and the rest of the card and the blister were pretty immaculate. So that just shows you, because the proof of purchase was cut out, it sold for $202.50. And this was Vader, admittedly. So Vader on this card back clear blister, it does command a massive premium. For some of the lesser characters, it might be closer to 50%. In this case, it's probably more like 75% for this Vader, because I don't think, if the pop had not been cut out on this one, there's no way you would have got it for $400. I would have said $500 to $600 pretty easily. So, but that's the general rule of thumb, for some of the normal characters, not main characters. If the pop is cut out, at least take 50% off the market value, all else being equal. Next up was a Luke Skywalker. This was a stunner, and the price did not disappoint. 65 back, a clear blister. Oh, man, that is a beauty. I would love to have bought that just to add to my other two Lukes, but, beautiful blister, no dings. I think that this is probably going to be an 80, at least, in terms of the grading. Unpunched as well. So it sold for $513, which I actually think is very fair. In high grade, if it's, if you got this one graded, I'd say it'd probably sell for $700 or $800 pretty easily. So, a nice example there. And 513 was very fair. Here's the Cloud Car palette. This one's on the 65 back A as well. So you can tell that this seller, when he sold them to Jeff, he probably just happened to pick up a lot of these 65 backs at the time they were at the store. But this was a nice looking Cloud Car palette. The pop was not cut out on that one as well. And the price reflected it. That sold for $460. Now, the price has gone up on these Cloud Car palettes on the Return of the Jedi card backs, because usually on the Return of the Jedi cards, the blisters do yellow pretty easily. But I have a 65 A back that's clear blister, and I think I paid $250 for mine a couple years ago. So it's, pretty close to double that since then. So that was a really nice example, though. Unpunched, clear blister. Here was the Bosk. It did have light yellowing. This was a 65 back B. You can see that the blacked out Ewoks are no longer there. But unpunched and a pretty nice looking blister, only faint yellowing to it. And the price again reflected that. It sold for $333. Now I've seen some people on eBay with clear blister try to get $600, $700, $800. I wouldn't pay that personally, but there are people out there trying to get that for Bosk, because usually on the 65s and the 77s, for Boss, they yellow really heavily. I mean, I've got a 77 back AFA 85 that's yellowed, and it just gets more and more yellow every year. But $333, I think, was very fair for that one. Here are the Boba Fetts. This one was the 65A, and the pop was cut out. It also had a big crease going through the whole card there. Even though the pop was cut out, even though it did have that big crease, it still sold for $760. So a pretty good poor man's Boba Fett mock. You know, it's just so expensive to buy these nowadays. So it's a nice, affordable way to do it if you can live with the defects. Here was the 65 back B, and this one had the Emperor offer. This is 65C, is that right? I can't remember. But it did have the pop cut out on this one as well. The card itself was in pretty good shape. It did have some litho wear around on the blue portion of the desert scene there. But probably in better shape than the 65A. And that one sold for $900. So very desirable card back there. Very light yellowing to the blister. But again, you know, that's the reason I showed these in my what to buy video, because not everyone wants to spend $2,000 or more on a Boba Fett mint on card. So, you know, having the pops cut out, slide them in an acrylic case, it looks really great on display, and nobody's the wiser, really. So, but I thought those were very fair deals. Next up, I do have both of the carrying cases that he had for sale. This one is the C-3PO carrying case, and as you can see, it's still factory sealed with the vacuum, you know, cellophane around it. That one sold for $600. That's a big number. Big number on that one. I've seen them sell for as low as $250 to $300, even still sealed. So $600 was a big number, but admittedly the insert or the cardboard outer box portion was in pretty decent shape. And then here is the Vader. This Vader also appeared to be unused sticker sheet. That one sold for $245. Now the Vader, you know, I think that some of them had tape that went around the head of Vader, but you know, so it's hard to tell if it's like, you know, unused contents versus mint and sealed box. Some of them did not have that tape. There's like a black factory kind of electrical tape that went on some of them, but this one appeared to not have that. But anyway, that one did sell for $245.50 on that one. Next up is an IG-88. I think these next 3 or 4 were all sold by the same seller, and they were all great deals. And I sent them out to Patreons, and they bought them all up. Here was the IG-88. Clear blister, a little bit of wave to the blister on it. You can see there, it's got a little wave to it, but I still think this would pretty easily get a 75 plus. But clear blister, this one was the 77A as well, which is tough to get in a clear blister. Unpunched, really nice example for $250. I thought that was a steal of a deal. And my friend Michael bought that one, so good buy on that one. Here's the Luke Jedi 77 back. 77A, and it had heavy yellowing to it, but he only wanted $250 for it. $250 for a mint on card Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight. I think that was a great deal, really good deal. And that one was the Taiwan as well. So good buy on that one. And I know a Patreon supporter got that because I sent that out and it sold quickly. This was probably the biggest steal, though. I sent this out to my Patreon supporters and it was bought within 10 seconds of me sending it out. It was $100. It was $100 for a made in Mexico, and the seller didn't know it, I don't think, but you can see there on the back of the card, it's a made in Mexico. So this is the Lily Letty Lando Calrissian in a skiff guard disguise, clear blister, obviously, which most of the Lily Lettys are, but it was only $100. So I think that was mispriced. I probably would have priced that more like $175 to $200, but somebody got a really good deal on that one. That was definitely a Patreon supporter. And then finally was the Papo, same seller. That one sold for $200. I thought that was a good deal. Really clean shape, just needs to be straightened out in a star case, but that was a 79 back with the Anakin offer. And again, that's another Lily Letty, made in Mexico. So really good deals from that seller. You really got to keep your eye out. And I sent them out early in the morning, one morning, and like all 5 of them sold within, 2 minutes of me sending them out to my Patreon supporters. So I'm glad I was able to get some good deals for some folks. I just want to say thanks for those of you that watch. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I try to cover vintage and modern Star Wars prices. Please consider subscribing. Thanks again for watching, and I'll be back soon.